Buzz Bissinger is the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of 4 books, including the New York Times bestseller, 3 Nights in August, and Friday Night Lights, one of my favorites, which has sold 2 million copies and spawned a film and a TV franchise. He is a contributing editor for Vanity Fair and a sports columnist for the Daily Beast. He has written for the New York Times, the New Republic, and many other publications. Today, Buzz will speak about his latest book, Father's Day, A Journey into the Mind and Heart of My Extraordinary Son. And I must say, what an absolutely well-written, incredible story that tugs on the heartstrings a little, well, maybe a lot. Yes, Buzz, I teared up a few times reading your book, and I want to thank you for that. I love books that stir emotion, and that's what really makes a good book. Father's Day explores Buzz's relationship with his son. Buzz has 2 twin sons that were born 3 minutes apart. Gerry's the older one. He's a graduate student at Penn, preparing to become a teacher. His brother Zach has spent his life attending special schools. He'll never drive a car or kiss a girl or live by himself. Zach was born 13 and a half weeks premature and a twin. He suffered brain damage at birth. However, he has some rare talents. He's an astonishing memory, a dazzling knack for navigation, and reflexive honesty, which can make him both socially awkward and surprisingly wise. One summer night, Buzz and Zach hit the road to revisit all the places they have lived during Zach's 24 years. Zach revels in his memories, and Buzz hopes that their journey together will bring them closer and that he can understand the mysterious workings of his son's mind and heart. Buzz is a brilliant writer. I definitely see Father's Day spawning its own film, too. The story is heartbreaking and triumphant and most of all truthful. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today and welcome to the Gaithersburg Book Festival, Buzz Bissinger.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. It really means a lot to me. There's one thing I want to make clear, because this has come up several times about Friday Night Lights. My book was not based on the television show. Actually, many people think that. I just want to make that clear, that the book came first, and then the movie, and then the television show, and I think all 3 gestations were wonderful, and the TV show was certainly something special. You've gotten a flavor of this book, a very, very different book for me. It is a personal story. There's always the fear that when you write a personal story, will it have any resonance for you, the readers, and that's obviously for you to decide. I'm going to read certain bits and then fill it in with my own words, but I want to give you a sense of their birth, which was very, very traumatic. They were the youngest male twins ever to survive at Pennsylvania Hospital in Philadelphia, which is the oldest hospital in the country. At that point in time in 1983, most male twins that size did not survive. I am forever running. I am still running from that moment I first saw Zach through the window of a hospital operating room on a suffocating August day in Philadelphia. Doctors and nurses surrounded him in a tight circle. He was a bloody quiver in their hands, born 13 and a half weeks too soon, weighing 1 pound and 11 ounces. The doctors held him with their arms high and outstretched, almost as if they were offering him as a sacrifice. They held him ever so gently, as if he might break into 1,000 pieces or just crumble into dust. His skin was almost translucent. His arms could snap in two like a wishbone. His fingers could break like the point of a pencil. His legs were tissue paper. They knew the odds of his survival were very low, and I also knew that if he survived, he would not remotely be the son I had ever imagined. I felt like a stranger in that hospital room. I felt I was just there by coincidence, wandering into the wrong room and seeing through the glass a woman I did not know giving birth. None of this made the slightest sense. None of this matched fatherhood. I didn't feel like crying. I just felt like walking away. And this was only half of what had already happened. Another bloody quiver had already been taken from the womb. It was Zach's twin brother named Gerry. He weighed 3 ounces more. He had been born 3 minutes earlier. But because of those 3 minutes, his lungs were more developed than Zach's. Gerry could not breathe on his own initially, but there was enough oxygen flowing through him to protect his brain from harm. Zach's lungs were not developed enough. Brain damage settled in like a patchy mist because of oxygen deprivation. You can boil an egg in 3 minutes. You can fetch the morning paper in 3 minutes. You can empty the dishwasher in 3 minutes. You can reheat the leftovers in 3 minutes. You can call for Chinese takeout in 3 minutes. You can determine the very course of a life in 3 minutes. So in many ways, this book, and it is about many things, it's a book about those 3 minutes, the 3 minutes that defined my son Gerry, who by some miracle had no residual effects and is living a thriving life as a 28-year-old adult. It's a book about Zach, who did have trace brain damage and is wonderfully verbal and friendly and has no physical side effects and works menial jobs. But they are the jobs he will work all his life, which is bagging groceries and stocking supplies. And he has very limited comprehension, probably in the range of 8 to 10 years old, and that will not change. And it's certainly the 3 minutes that define my life as a father, as a man, constantly over those years trying to come to grips with a son who was so very, very different from what I imagined. This is a book of wrenching, perhaps brutal honesty. I know no other way. Some have found it in parts difficult to read. Perhaps that is the case. I did not want to sugarcoat it. I wanted to give readers the sense of what it is like to have a child who is different and is forever different and will never be what you imagined and, frankly, what you wanted. Zach is a miracle. Some people confuse my honesty with a lack of love. It has never been a lack of love. I have loved both those boys with all my heart from the very beginning. But when you have a child like Zach, beyond love, you feel frustration at times, you feel rage at times, you feel pain at times, you feel cheated at times, and you know he was cheated as well. And all of that is expressed. This is not a story about my victimization. It is not a story about his victimization like most memoirs are. I am not the hero of my own story. I am not meant to be the hero of my own story. It is about my evolving relationship with Zach, but it is also about my evolving relationship with myself as a man, as a father, and the things that shape me. Because we all live through our children. We may deny it, we may admit it, but we do. They certify us, we love them, we thrive when they do well, we cry when they don't. We pray for their progress. The difficulty of Zach is that his upward progress, particularly after 5 or 6, was painfully, painfully slow. And there were so many times, as much as I loved him, that I felt we were stuck. We were stuck in time doing the same things we had done over and over, in some cases, for 15 or 20 years. The idea of the cross-country trip came about because his mother's family was going to Spain. He does not like to fly. He gets antsy and ticky. I had him for 2 weeks, and I wanted to do something special like I have with Gerry, like I have with my youngest son, Caleb. Do something that would resonate. Do something that would be intimate. Do something where we would truly be together for a concentrated period of time, the longest period of time I had ever spent alone with him, which was these 2 weeks. And I shudder to say the name, but I will. At the Barnes & Noble, I continued to thumb through the guidebook. I thought I knew the United States, had picked it clean. I've driven across the country 4 times. It is always magical, but there still is so much to see. Zach loves maps, and he puts a map of Kansas City back and plucks another one out. Enough. I am impatient. It is his bookstore routine, but we have repeated it dozens of times now, and the over and over is gnawing at me. Hey, Zach, are you ready to go? I'm ready. Did you find the map you wanted? Yeah. What is it? It's a new map of Philadelphia. Zach, you have dozens of maps of Philadelphia. Why do you need another one? I don't know, I just do. We go to leave, we stop. I feel like we are the film Groundhog Day, except nothing ever changes until this moment. Hey, Zach, you and I are going to drive cross-country this summer. Zach scans his memory. You know, Uncle Bobo, he drove to Texas once, and he got hit by a deer. I'll be more careful than Uncle Bobo. It wrecked his car, I think. Zach, what about the trip? Will Gerry go, my brother? Nope, just the two of us. Oh, Zach, you don't seem very excited. Oh, no, I'm very excited. How will we get there? Well, we'll rent a car and we'll drive. To where? To California. Hey, Dad, I have an idea I think you'll really, really like. Yeah, I think you'll really like it. What is it, Zach? Well, maybe we can fly. So at the very beginning, there was the trouble that Zach was kind of reticent about it. His mother, who's very optimistic in inverse proportion to me, she thought it was a bad idea because she was worried that it would be hard for him to sit still. His brother Gerry thought it was a risky idea because, as he said, 2 weeks in a car with Zach alone is a very, very long time. I would never subject Zach to something that I thought he would dislike. But I did want to do something special. I did want to do something intimate, and I structured the trip in a way. It actually was the worst route in American history, driving cross-country, because I knew that he doesn't like scenery. The Grand Canyon to him means nothing. The flatlands of Texas, he said, reminded him of Yellowstone. He said Hoover Dam reminded him of the Lincoln Tunnel. He doesn't like those things. He responds to people. His thinking is all concrete. So we decided to go back to all the places where we had lived before because he loves seeing people. He has a phenomenal memory. So for him, in a sense, his memory is his present. The trip was rocky at the beginning. I felt a lot of stress. I was nervous that it would be painful for him, and I would never inflict pain upon my son, at least consciously. I would never, ever do that. And there was the sense at times that we were stuck. We were stuck in a moment that we would never, ever get out of. And life is about progression. You know, Gerry is a teacher now. Gerry owns his own home. Gerry has a girlfriend. Gerry will get married. Gerry will have children. I will be a grandfather. And Zach will never have any of it. So we were in Milwaukee and driving around aimlessly because Zach simply likes to look at buildings. He doesn't really care about going inside, and it was getting to me. It had been a really long day. Zach wants to go to some place called Cops, a restaurant. I don't even know how to spell it, much less where it is located. How are we going to get there if we don't know how to get there? Well, Dad, we don't have to go there. No, that's where you want to go. Dad, it's all right. We can go somewhere else. Nope. If that's where you want to go, then that's where we'll go. I call directory assistants to at least figure out the spelling and get an address. The silence separates. I am increasingly finding the entire trip pointless, a vain exercise in molding Zach into something he cannot be. Fantasizing that the open road would lead to a greater sense of togetherness and understanding, that in our intimate privacy, I would be able to bore into a soul and pull out a string of sparkles. I want a different son at this moment. I deserve a different son. I glance over at Zach and I fill up with familiar self-hatred. I realize the cop who had stopped me earlier in the day was right. I do have an impairment, an emotional impairment, the anger of what happened, the helplessness, the forever haunt of watching my newborn through a hospital, bloody and breakable. The restaurant is in a town called Glendale on Port Washington Road. I feel obligated to find it. I'm the father, but I am just driving in wider and wider circles. Zach peers into his map. He is the human GPS for the family, and he finds Port Washington Road. I try to gather myself together. Zach, do you think I'm in a good mood or a bad mood? I think you're in a good mood, Dad, as long as I find this place. He brushes my hand with his. I can feel it on my back. It'll be all right, Dad. You're being very supportive of me, Zach. Yeah. I'm out of it. Yeah. Zach spots a sign for Glendale that I had missed. We drive a little farther and spot cops on the right. He guides me to a parking space in the overflowing lot. Yep, we got a spot. We sit on a rounded ledge outside and we eat buffalo chicken sandwiches and thick onion rings. I suck down a malt and he sips a Diet Coke. Hey, Dad, can I have some money so I can get some ice cream? It is a question he asked me when he was 5. It is a question he will ask me as long as I am here with him. He gets his ice cream with its ooze of hot fudge creasing over the plastic cup. He eats in the complete wash of his happiness. At this moment, I feel neither pity for him nor self-pity. I feel gratitude. Zach knew how to save me. And much of the trip is like that, and it raises to me, among other things in the book, an interesting question of what really is an impairment. Zach is obviously mentally impaired, but as I say, I in my own way have impairments. Impatience, volatility, easy frustration. I can be very, very negative. And that too is an impairment, and that too affects a relationship with his son. But as we get going, as we move forward through our bumps and bruises, the trip gets better and better. It becomes more resonant. It becomes more fun. Zach loves amusement parks. He loves the rush. He loves the speed. I'm not sure why. It is an incredible stimulation to him. And the only problem with that is that I have to go with him. Part of it's combating midlife crisis. Part of it is fatherly pride. We're at an amusement park outside of St. Louis called Six Flags, on a ride called Batman, which you know is going to be trouble from the very beginning. We make it to the top of the stairs and get in one of the cars. I am concerned my glasses will fall off since the shorts I am wearing do not have pockets suitable for holding glasses. Plus, for reasons I cannot quite explain, they are also 3 sizes too big. I have to hold them up when weighted down with tape recorder and wallet and car keys. I feel like a clown at some low-grade circus where nobody has been paid for months. The elevation of Batman is 10.5 stories. The length is 2,000 feet, and the ride is 50 miles per hour with maximum G-forces of 4. The ride features 5 head-over-heels moments, and the trains traveling on the outside of the track. Then the trains travel on the outside of the track rather than the inside, in which I have to assume you hang upside down like a bat. As a bonus, the floor drops from beneath the rider's seats. I have no idea why this is a bonus. Zach's eyes are open. The faster we go around a loop, the greater the G-force is sucking our bodies into emaciation, the more he luxuriates in it. The ride ends after 4 more loops. My paraphernalia has somehow remained in my pocket. Zach is just getting started. I follow like his pet. I need to go on the rides all day, Dad. I can't stop going on the rides. Why do you like them so much? I just do. He has the map of Six Flags in his hand. He has figured out the next ride. It's called The Boss. That can't be good. We pass by Miss Kitty's Saloon and a gift shop called Thrill Seekers filled with tacky junk. But they do have a belt adorned with a Six Flags logo. I put it on so my shorts will not fall down. What do you think, Zach? Good. Zach is, as usual, being diplomatic. I now officially look deranged, even for an amusement park. Next is a slingshot, which is true to its name. Zach and I sit side by side in adjoining seats that remind me of dental chairs, except that we're strapped in. The slingshot catapults us up, then heads back down again. It does this for far too long in my increasing squeamishness. Zach is impressed. The slingshot is my favorite so far, Dad. The slingshot? You mean the one where we went up high and then went upside down? That was your favorite? Yeah. Zach, you're insane. That was the one I hated. Zach is not focused on my feelings. And as I say, the deeper we got, the more intimate we got, what I hoped would happen would happen. We did bond in a way that we never did before by focusing on him. And it's easy not to focus on a kid like Zach. He has perseverative behaviors. He'll do the same thing over and over. By focusing on him, I learned, and I'm not just saying this for a book, as many authors do. Here are the lessons learned. Here's the moral of the tale. I learned about his empathy, the touch of his fingers on my back when I was upset, his realization that he wanted to calm me down. I found out how observant he could be when I thought he was not paying attention. I found that it simply is not a yearning for dependence that he craves, that he must, as much as possibly, be encouraged to be independent. But I think most of all, and it will never be perfect, it is never perfect for any parent with any child, and it certainly is never perfect for a child who is different, and there are millions out there. As many of you perhaps know, the autism rate for children is now 1 in 88. So something is happening. It simply is beyond overdiagnosis. But I learned, what is character? What is it really? What is success? Is it how much money we amass? Is it how big our house is? Is it the number of cars in our garage? Is that what character is? Is it intellect? I learned with Zach that that isn't character. To me, character is what Oliver Sacks, the great writer and neurologist, said, that within all of us, whether we are impaired or not impaired, resides almost a spiritual need to make ourselves whole. I have seen this in my son. I have seen this in his friends. I have seen this in many people. Zach takes every ounce of what he has been given, and yes, there is a lot he has not been given, but he takes every possible ounce, and he uses it to make himself whole. And he has, both with wonderful teaching and with good parenting, but so much on his own because of the will inside him. He really has created a beautiful and remarkable world of productivity of himself. He is a member of our society, and there's such a tendency to put the disabled out to the side because they're not part of the normals, and either we are uneasy because of them or we treat them with patronization. And I never did that with Zach. I have expectations that you work hard, whatever it is that I demand of him. Every day he breaks up with broken wings, my wife Lisa once said, and every day he learns how to fly. It is a beautiful statement, but after driving across the country with him, I'm not sure it is entirely true. I no longer think his wings are broken. He may skim perilously close to the ground. He may bump up and bump down and bruise himself. The landing may require a mayday, but he can fly. And sometimes he soars, leaving all of us down below to watch as he seizes every skill within him to skim the clouds. I believe that about my son. I know that it's true about my son. It is true about all my sons, but Zach came from the furthest back. I am immensely proud of him, but this is not a sugar-coated book. Having a child like Zach does create pain. You get scared. When I get scared, I get angry. I'm not proud of that. But I also felt that what is the point of a memoir if you are not honest? There is no point. And part of my being honest is myself is what Zach has to contend with as a son. I do talk to him in salty language because that's how I talk to my other children. It's inherited. I learned it from my father, so blame him. And unfortunately, my son Gerry has inherited it as well, to the point where I say, Gerry, you have to stop using the word so much. And he says, yeah, Dad. It's a bad habit. I do it. I want people to know, because some of the reviews, yes, they've been marvelous. The New York Times, Entertainment Weekly, there's a recent review in the Dallas News that is just withering. That I'm cruel to my son, that I'm selfish, that I'm mean. I listen to that, and I wonder, maybe am I? Certainly was never the intent of the book, and it's always difficult as a writer when you work so hard to feel understood, and maybe you were misunderstood. But that was never, ever the intent. And if I sound defensive, maybe I am, because that bothers me. I love my son to death. Did the book change me? No. I came from a world of extreme ambition and extreme need for success. I'm very, very insecure. I'm very, very competitive. Zach, blessedly, does not know competition, does not know jealousy, is happy for everybody. And it's just not, it's not ignorance, it's bliss, because I resent that term. He is aware of his world. One of the hardest conversations I've had in my life, probably the hardest conversation. I was determined on this trip, for better or for worse, to tell him what was wrong. I wanted to do that because he is a part of my family. He is my son. I have these heart-to-heart conversations with my other sons. And I also felt that if he was aware, it would be a starting point to talk about where he should be, what should happen to him. The most wrenching question of all for any parent of a child who is different. Where should he be? Should he be in a group home? Should he live with his parents? What will happen when his mom and I are gone? Those questions torture you for all of your life. But now we are talking about them with Zach, and he is aware of what it means. But I said, do you know what brain damage is? And he said, I think I know. And I said, what is it? He said, something's not right with my brain. And I said, how do you know that? And Zach's language can be simple, but he said, because I can't do things my brother can do. And I said, like what? Like go to school, like Gerry can do, like go to college, like have a girlfriend. He is aware of that. I was gratified by that. Ignorance is not bliss. I think knowledge is bliss, as hard as it can be. But I must tell you that when you have your child say to you, my brain isn't right, it crushes you. And you never, ever, ever forget it. But he is a miracle. He is a marvel, not just because he survived and lived, which was a miracle unto itself. He is, as I say, a miracle of fighting every day to fly and skim the clouds. So thank you very, very much. Now, I'm not sure how much time I have. I don't have a PowerPoint because I thought the point of books was to use words, not pictures. No offense. But is there time for questions, or are we done? I have a couple minutes. You can ask me questions, Friday Night Lights, about the book, anything, and if you don't, that's fine too. I will want to add something. I just was on the Chris Matthews show last night, who does, it's very flattering, love the book. He said there is wonder on every page. But Chris gave me very good advice about festivals and book signings. He said, remember why you're here, which is to buy the book. I think that's an artful way of saying, hey, we're authors, we don't get much royalty, please help us out. I know $26 is a lot, I understand that, maybe they'll discount it. But in any case, if you don't have questions, I really, really appreciate your coming, and I think, to me, this is a marvelous experience. Books will make it. There are people like yourselves who care about books, because if we stop reading, and the younger generation is certainly showing signs of it, we will be lost as a nation, as a society, and as a world. So thank all of you for coming. Sure. My favorite thing about Philadelphia is it's a wonderful combination of beauty and art and culture and history, and it is one gritty city. I've never seen a city, and this includes New York, that has so many different textures. It has the most horrendous poverty I've ever seen. I wrote a book about Philadelphia. Well, thank you. Called A Prayer for the City. The poverty is horrendous. It does. Parts of Philadelphia look like Dresden after the bombing. Then I am lucky enough to live in a section called Chestnut Hill, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I will say, and I'm proud of my city, the Barnes Foundation just opened new headquarters on Center City. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Barnes, but I can tell you're all very smart and very literate, and you love art almost as much as you love books. I urge you to go. The Barnes collection is probably the best private collection in the world. Just as one example, he collected over 75 Renoirs, over 80 Matisses, and they've built a new museum. He was a very complicated man. He made his money by inventing a cure to syphilis, which was pretty smart. The building is a marvel. Philadelphia has a great museum row, but it's gritty. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Philadelphia fans. I am glad I'm not a sports player playing in Philadelphia, because if they don't like you, they will eventually run you out of town. But I do love the city, and I'm tired of New Yorkers, well, you know my language by now, shitting all over it all the time as if it's podunk. Because then they come and they say, wow, it's really nice. And I said, well, why didn't you figure that out beforehand? So it's a wonderful city.
Could you speak into the mic, your question into the mic?
Buzz, is it pure coincidence that the NBC series ends up with the coach and his family moving to Philadelphia?
Well, I like to say it was because of me, because I live in Philadelphia. I think, actually, frankly, what happened is one of the producers is from Philadelphia. And Philadelphia actually is a great place to shoot films. They're very, very accommodating. I did actually think, and it would have been unique, they could have continued the series. It would have been fascinating to see Coach Taylor at an all-black high school in a very different environment. The thing that strikes me about the TV show, it's much more popular once it got canceled. I find now everybody watches it. Well, where the hell were you when it was on? But I give NBC credit. They kept it on for 5 years. There is talk about a movie being made. I don't think that's going to happen. But I will say that the crew, it was created by my cousin, Pete Berg. Kyle Chandler is a dream. He is as nice as he seems. Connie Britton is wonderful. And I am proud to be, I think it was wonderful about Friday Night Lights. It was a special book, it was a special movie, and it certainly was a special TV series. And I was there for the final scene, which was very moving. Well, yes, and that's a great question, because what concerns me is this is all about money. Schools do not want to pay. Zach was lucky. He got in before schools decided we do not want to be in this business of special education, and one of the things they do is they'll mainstream the kids into regular classes with aids. I know in the case of my son, it would not work. He could not be mainstreamed. I don't think it's fair to the regular kids. I don't think it's fair to the regular teacher. And honestly, it stigmatizes these kids even more. They sit together, the other students notice them. Where Zach, he hasn't lost it because he can't. Social Security is a nightmare. It is a nightmare. They take every opportunity they can to say that you should not get it. More than that, it becomes a disincentive to work because they do not allow you to have, Zach, more than $2,000 in personal assets. That makes absolutely no sense because some parents say, well, if my kid is working, I'm going to stop because I don't want to lose the benefits. Every year, his mother and I have to tromp down to the office and prove once again that we have not cheated, we have not hidden assets. Every 3 years, he is tested mentally, and nothing has changed. I mean, he has not become a Mensa graduate. There was talk about changing the diagnosis and limiting it, and I think that was because of money, because this government and schools no longer want to pay for kids who have Asperger's. To me, the labels are irrelevant. They are irrelevant. Difference is difference. Some kids have more difference than others. Zach was lucky enough to go to an approved private school that had incredible facilities and made a tremendous difference in his life, and then went to a public high school with a self-contained program with a wonderful teacher. My fear is more and more these programs will be cut, because I think that's, in our day and age, I think that is the goal. Well, listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.